Court in Glasgow heard that he strangled his sister and called the police at 24 minutes past 9 in the evening. He told a 999 operator, "I think I've killed my sister, she's dead and I'm alive." On the 17th of September 2016, a 50-year-old woman was strangled in her flat in St Andrews in Scotland. This is the case of Elizabeth Bowe. So I'm going to explain the story in a nutshell, then go into more detail. So Elizabeth Bowe had been living with her brother. She'd recently invited him to stay with her in her flat. He was 52 and she had had prior problems with an ex-partner who'd been abusive towards her. And I think the police had been involved and she was categorised as a vulnerable person. He ultimately ended up killing her. That's her brother, not her boyfriend, make allegations of rape against him, and as a result he decided to strangle her to death. Prior to this, she had actually, I think it was on the same day, she'd contacted the police saying that he had stolen her phone and wouldn't give it back to her, and they responded. I think it was I'm not sure whether it was the police themselves, I think it might have been a police officer, rang her back, left a message on her brother's phone saying, "Your phone hasn't been stolen, don't waste our time." And later on in the day, she was murdered by her brother. So that had an extra layer of police incompetence to it, and possibly misogyny involved as well. So Charles Gordon was the name of her brother. He was 52. He said he grabbed her by the neck after she said she would claim that he'd raped her, and as a result he decided the appropriate course of action was to strangle her. Obviously it's his word against her, she's no longer around, so I suspect that wasn't the truth of the matter, but I wasn't there. The High Court in Glasgow heard that he strangled his sister and called the police at 24 minutes past 9 in the evening. He told a 999 operator, "I think I've killed my sister, she's dead and I'm alive." The police arrived, he was there calmly smoking a cigarette while his dying sister, who was naked from the waist, so it suggests that there may have been a sexual assault, although he was ultimately not charged with that, presumably due to lack of evidence. She lay just feet away with blood from her mouth and a blue dressing gown around her neck. There were torn pieces of plastic bags, one of which had Miss Bowe's blood on it, and that was nearby. She was taken to 9 Miles Hospital in Dundee. She died on the 20th September 2016. The pathologist, Dr. David Sadler, told the court that Miss Bowe, who was 5'6" and weighed 7 stone 4 pounds, so I'm 5'6½", and I know when I'm 8.5 stone, which I'm not at the moment, I look very slim. So 7 stone 4 pounds. I have been 7.5 stone as an adult, a young adult, after a breakdown of a relationship. I lost a lot of weight very quickly, and most of my family thought I was dying. So 7 stone 4 pounds when you're 5'6" is very underweight. Anyway, she died from strangulation. Likely he strangled her with one hand and had the other clamped over her mouth. The jury was told Miss Bowe would have lost consciousness after 10 to 20 seconds, but would take at least a minute to inflict a fatal injury, so he'd have to be strangling her manually for at least a minute. So that's quite a long time if you think about holding your hands around somebody. Try timing it yourself, see how long that would take. He was originally accused of raping her, but that charge was withdrawn, presumably due to lack of evidence. It looks like sexual assault if she was naked from the waist down, though, but anyway. So he admitted to killing her, but not murdering her. His words were, I grabbed hold of her by the throat with my left hand. I kept a hold of her until she hit the floor. She slumped and went down. When she went down, I let her go." When asked why he did it, Gordon told the call handler, I'm going to use a Scottish accent here, so please excuse me, it's just to make it sound, because of the vernacular he's using, "because she was a cheeky bastard, rowling all night." Gordon told police officers who battled to save Miss Bowe, "She's already dead, you might as well give up." The violent and sustained assault came after she had offered him a place to stay in her home. Solicitor advocate Ian Peterson said, so a solicitor advocate, I assume maybe that's Scottish for defence solicitor, "This was not premeditated. It appears to have been because of what happened in the flat that day. He phoned the police. He should get some credit for that. Well, murder somebody and you phone the police. Yeah, get some credit, but you shouldn't have murdered her in the first place. Anyway, he was ordered to serve at least 17 years in prison before being eligible for parole. Speaking following the sentencing, major crime I don't know whether I spelled this right. Major crime, I'm going to say prosecutor fiscal, Nikki Patrick said, this was a violent and sustained assault and took place despite Elizabeth Bowe offering her brother shelter and a place to stay. The nature of this crime is thankfully exceedingly rare, and some comfort can be taken from the life sentence handed to the accused today. Detective Chief Inspector Rory Hamilton of Police Scotland said, our thoughts remain with the family and friends of Elizabeth at this difficult time. Charles Gordon carried out a horrific attack. We note the sentence handed down today. The Police Investigations and Review Commissioner heard that she called police for help before she was attacked. So this is what I mentioned earlier. So this is more detail about what happened there. Ms. Bowe had called officers about 8 p.m. on the day she died. So this is only about just over an hour before he actually attacked her. Yeah, so a full 90 minutes before they responded. Her brother had stolen a phone and she was in a domestic violence situation. Ms. Bowe said she required her telephone to call for help if she needed it. The service advisor created an incident report and attached a marker, highlighted that Ms. Bowe had been the victim of domestic violence by her estranged partner. Told Ms. Bowe that police officers would attend. They categorised the call as a grade 2 priority, a call requiring response within 15 minutes. At 12 minutes past 8 p.m, the controller then attempted to contact her brother's mobile phone. On receiving no reply, left a voicemail message. So by controller, I presume it means the call operator or somebody in the call centre. So not, I don't know whether it be a police officer or not technically, but it doesn't look like it was escalated to the police as such. It said, Elizabeth, this is Police Scotland here. It's regarding your so-called theft. See language there, so-called theft? Of a phone by your brother. Your brother is in the house. He has not stolen your phone. How the hell do they know? Because not freaking well there. Police are not going to attend. This has made me so angry just reading this. And also, the 999 calls are for emergencies only. No, certainly not for this type of incident. Whoever left that message, I feel like I'm smashing their face in. PIRC Commissioner, so PIRC, just remind you again what that stands for. I'll have to look it up because I can't remember. The Police Investigations and Review Commissioner, so that's PIRC for short. PIRC Commissioner Kate Frame concluded that Miss Bowe's death may have been prevented if police had attended earlier. It makes me so angry, this. I mean, I hadn't heard of this case at all. There's not much coverage on it. I can't see many photos of Miss Bowe either online, but I think it's worth raising it as obviously a bit of police misconduct, certainly within the control room. Anyway, Miss Bowe was found badly injured in Bobby Jones' place in St Andrews. RC Commissioner Kate Frame said, had Police Scotland timeously, I'm not sure if that's the right pronunciation, it is a real word though, timeously dispatched resources in accordance with their call priority system following Elizabeth Bowe's 999 call 1 hour and 24 minutes earlier. Officers may have arrived at her home prior to her receiving the injuries from which she died and thereby preventing her death. The findings welcomed by Miss Bowe's family. A statement on their behalf said, the past year has put a terrible strain on the family and we now just want to move on with our lives. The circumstances of the death of Elizabeth, who was a caring mother and grandmother, was a shock to us all and we appreciate the support we have received but would now wish our privacy to be respected. The PIRC report has made a number of recommendations on how Police Scotland should deal with calls from vulnerable people. We hope these will be taken forward so that changes are made to avoid something similar happening again. Those recommendations included action to ensure that calls for assistance from vulnerable people receive appropriate response, staff in the police area control room at Bilston Glen, training guidance on the identification, management and prioritisation of calls from vulnerable people, recording relevant information and undertaking necessary checks to ensure that failures identified in the death of Elizabeth Bowe do not happen again. A Police Scotland spokesman said the force accepted the findings and continued to ensure that the recommendations are implemented. Just sounds like common sense to me. Nobody seems to have any brains anymore. Anyway, a statement added, "Our thoughts remain with the family and friends of Elizabeth Bowe and all those affected by her death." Since the incident in September 2016, Police Scotland have given risk and vulnerability training to over 800 staff, which assist in identifying and assessing risk at the first point of contact, as well as capturing the right and relevant information. Police Scotland receives in excess of tens of thousands of calls every year regarding vulnerable persons, and further guidance has been given to call handlers and area control room staff with regards to the downgrading and closure of incidents. A revised process is now in place for incidents where vulnerability is identified, which ensures closer supervisory, scrutiny. That's quite a depressing case, really. It depresses me because you call for help and they dismissed her based on nothing other than, by the sound of it, they just couldn't be bothered to deal with it properly. And it caused her life. And it's really upsetting. It's actually quite an upsetting case. It's quite a not very well known case. Anyway, that was a case of Elizabeth Bowe. I hope you found it interesting and informative. I've been Anne-Marie, and if you like my content, please like and subscribe. Thank you. Bye-bye.